Indicates an important announcement.
Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome back to another Thursday night matchday preview. This one with a slight twist. The Talking Town boys are in the VIP area, waiting to come on. Matt Phillips is currently having a beer, having a dance, and he's ready for this evening. We've got, of course, Accrington Stanley owner Andy Holt with us, a very exciting guest. We've got the wheel, many topics. Obviously, Stanley's a club we've done some business with recently, with Jackson and Donatian, so some good talking points there. I will bring in my two co-hosts in just a moment. First of all, thank you all to those who kindly donate to the channel and support us on a monthly basis. Thank you ever so much. We obviously can't continue and carry on doing the things we're doing without your support. You truly are the community, as it were. Mike D's in the building. Welcome in, Mike D. I thought you have gone for some wham tonight, Martin. Yeah, I couldn't get the copyright for that, but yeah, great suggestion. Andrew Arbon, good evening. Callie, Accrington away was my favourite away day last year. Quite a few of those. I'm sure Andy will be absolutely delighted to read that many people feel that it's a community club. Welcome in Cruncher and Matt Phillips. Stanley, a community club, a nice football team, almost an Ipswich Town, right? With the same sort of things there.
Well, lovely. We've mentioned it before, haven't we? John Colman singing Christmas hits back in December. Lovely little community film. I'm sure Andy will tell us more about it. Yeah, all good.
What a lovely trip there in the FA Cup, Martin.
Oh, no, that wasn't a lovely trip at all.
I know.
Football was atrocious.
I've
forgotten that moment. I've forgotten that whole game until you mentioned that. So, geez. Matt, ever been to the stadium there at Accrington?
No, not been up to Accrington Stanley's game. I did watch that FA Cup game, though. It's in the States at the time, so I watched it on ESPN. Oh, yeah.
Very nice. Before we go any further, let's just get it out of the way. Rich, cricket update. What was latest in the cricket today? I saw several Town fans back and forth having a little bit of a, moment. It was that bad, look, Matt. He's
lost his microphone. I mean, that's tactics, isn't it? He'd have to talk about it. Oh, he's back. He's back.
Yeah.
What is going on with your mic?
Nothing. It was just muted. I don't know. It's him pressing the buttons up the top there and then blame it on me. Bumble. Yeah, Bumble follows Accrington, doesn't he? He's a big Accrington fan.
Andy's
cricket, don't talk about it. Callie, don't even put any messages in the chat.
It was the quickest test match since 1935, I was reading.
Yeah, I was doing some painting today, and I finished that half day, and I've done some painting, and I had it on the radio, and it was shocking.
Was it 17 wickets today, was it?
Joe Root got 5 wickets, Matt, for 8 runs. It shows you how bad the pitch was.
I'd rather look at a pitch for 2 days than watch cricket. But that's just my own personal opinion. Maybe Andy's a cricket fan. Let's bring Andy in now. Obviously, our guest. Welcome in, Andy. How are you doing? Are you a cricket fan?
I like to watch a bit of cricket, but mainly on a Sunday with a pint in my hand down at Village. So I've been to Old Trafford with Bumble a few times and knocked about around there. But I think little village cricket clubs for me.
Yeah, I could do the pint. I could definitely do the pint aspect of it. I'm just not, it's a game, Rich, that just takes days when it could take minutes, it seems.
But there is different forms of the game, Martin.
Yeah, 2020 is...
Andy, what do you reckon? Would Bumble rather England won the Ashes or Accrington get to the Championship? What would he plump for, do you reckon?
He'd go for Aki. For Aki every time. His first loves football, not cricket, believe it or not. No. So, he's Great chap. He's done a lot of stuff for Accrington. I fired him first time when I first joined. He was a director. So I had to ring him up and fire him along with everybody else. And, funny story, really. He's a great guy. And I rang him up and I said, "Listen, David, you're going to have to go as a director." I said, "You're on the books as a director, as such responsible for a lot of things that have gone on at club. VAT haven't been paid, tax haven't been paid." I said, "You're an executive director, so you've got responsibilities." He said, "I didn't know I were a director." He said, "I thought what was it about?" So I said, "Anyway, I'm going to fire you." He said, "Get me fired." He said, "Get me off them books." He said, "I didn't know. I'd never been there."
Agrees to me.
So, I mean, he's done wonders for the club, and he's a real big Stanley fan. He played for Stanley.
Did he?
Yeah. In 30s, I think it was, but it was certainly a long time.
Well, we've got our first sort of not question, but we'll get it out of the way nice and early. Andy Graham says, "What a pleasure to see an owner that gets the club's fans." Do you want to buy Ipswich, Andy? By any chance? Ask Graham. We'll get it out of the way nice and quick.
Easy answer that. When you bought one, you realise that you never want another. Once bitten, twice shy. So you're better being bitten at our level than being bitten at your level.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we were talking off air about when you took control of Accrington Stanley and the position they were in and where they are now. And you didn't grow up a football fan, was that right?
Not really. No, I weren't a big fan. I used to go out with my mates on beer and watch Burnley now and again, but not. I wouldn't have a season ticket, or I'd go over to Old Trafford if I could bum some tickets. And I'd enjoy day out like anything else, but I'd just as much rather go to Thirsk and watch horse racing and have a bet and a few pints. I weren't bothered. It was Saturday, as long as I was getting a few pints with my mates, I were happy. So it didn't necessarily have to be football.
So, and I asked you, how does somebody doesn't necessarily grow up that sort of with that in-depth passion that perhaps people do when they grow up with it, decide, right, I'm gonna take a football club. What about Stanley stood out to you? What did you fall in love with about?
Well, they were struggling with Stanley all the time, and my business donated to a lot of local clubs, football clubs, cricket clubs, about getting kids off streets, about giving kids sport and bringing them into. So it weren't about cancer charities and all that. It was the front end, getting kids into physical activity and all that. And we give quite a bit of cash out, and if you could satisfy that, we'd give some cash. Anyway, Accrington Stanley come calling because obviously their community trust and academy gets hundreds and thousands of kids off. I think there are about 10,000 people it interacts with a year. Back then, it's a lot more now. So they asked me if I'd sponsor it. And I said I'd sponsor it without really getting involved in details. I said, okay, I'll sponsor it. And I agreed a £200,000 3-year sponsor for the shirt. Well, it was $60,000 a year for the shirt. And they threw Stadium in for 20 grand for 3 years to name Stadium. So, I'm not kidding, it's brilliant. And the great people. So I put that 200 grand in, and I were invited to go to friendlies at the beginning of the season, and I went on and watched us against Burnley. And we were 3-0 up after 9 minutes in friendly. We went on to win 4-2. And there'd no beer. I got 1 pint with my lad. And they ran out of beer, and I said, "Well, what's the crack here? I want a beer. I'm out for a pint with my lad to watch football." And they hadn't paid the bills and couldn't get the beers, couldn't get the pies, and what have you. And I thought, what have I got into here? Toilets. You'd fall literally through the floor at toilets. And but I were in then. I'd sponsored it, and I were in, and I went to a couple more matches. And chairman then Peter Morsley came up to me and said, "Look, we're really struggling. Can you help me? Would you like to get involved in club?" And I said, "Well, not really." And by the end of the day, they told me they couldn't pay wages. They did 100,000 of wage arrears, and they couldn't pay them for a month. And I said, "Well, I'll put 100,000, another 100,000 in on top of the 200 sponsorship." So I'll put the 100 in, and if I'll have a look at it for a month, and if I don't want to get involved, you can consider that a gift. And if I do get involved, well, it'll be a gift to me because it's paying some of the bills that I'll have to pay after anyhow. And when we looked at it, I spent a month with lawyers and accountants doing due diligence, and when you look at a company, it's bad. You haven't seen Accrington Stanley. It were really bad. But what I learned over that month is it weren't bad for wrong reasons. It were bad for the right reasons. People were working hard. People have got that club from nowhere into the Football League, up 4 or 5 leagues with buttons. They were literally meeting up at the end of a match and coppering up to keep the place going. You know, the directors. So Bumble were throwing his time in. There were fans. I was speaking to fans that had put 10,000 in. Peter Marsden had put a few 100,000 in, and Elias Khan. And the story is not one of mismanagement. The story is one of doing the best from being at 7th tier and getting into the Football League without any real backing. So these guys, it's not a criticism where we were. It's a credit to them that they managed to get so far. And I met them and I thought they're really good people. The Community Trust does a fabulous job. It's doing better now, and the academy does wonders. And even that's improving now because we're getting a little bit of stability. We're not funding it. We're just giving them a future, and things are getting better. But everybody told me not to get involved. The solicitors, the accountants, my wife, even my son now that swears up, loves Stanley, said don't get involved. And I slept on it. I just got a bit when I said, look, I'm going to do it, and that's that. So went in and got involved. There were a couple of million quid of debt in it, and I had to put out a note saying that if you hadn't come and claimed any cash owed to you within 6 months, I'm right, you can consider it written off. You're never getting paid. They were still coming out at Woolwork a year later. I did that job. I didn't put invoice in because they couldn't pay, and it was like that. But the one thing that struck me is the honesty of the people, the town, the commitment. John Colman, Jimmy Bell, and Martin Fearon at Community Trust. They were just a great bunch of lads. I got counselling because council couldn't stand the club. They were always meeting on court steps, and I said, "Look, you either back me now, or tell me you're not backing me. And if you're not backing me, I'll walk away, and nobody will ever know we've had this conversation." And they said they'd back me. So overall, we just got on with it, and terms of reference were to build a decent little club that could go up and down leagues over the next 50 years and not go bust. So it'd be managed properly within its means, and that's the terms of reference. So I don't regret it now. There were periods when I regretted it. There were periods when we were second bottom at league, and fans were sending me anonymous letters saying sack your manager, and your manager's useless, your players are shit, and all sorts of words.
Sounds like this podcast, Andy. Sounds like our podcast.
Well, listen, I get that, and I know what it's like. And in first year, a lot of people didn't trust me, and I was thinking to myself, "Look, I'm paying bills, and they don't trust me. I can get not trusted and not spend anything. Just go and sit at a cricket club on a Sunday, and buy my own beer. I didn't. But over time, I spoke to them. So when people come to visit us, I'd be out in with fans. I'd walk around. When Mel came up from Derby, we went all around talking to fans and home and away fans, and met everybody. And we like to think we're a different club and with a better offer than there's two local rivals. I call them rivals.
I've heard you do that. I think when we viewed the FA Cup, you was in the bar chatting to all the away supporters, and that's one of the take. Even though I was watching the game on streaming it, I remember that was a bit of a take home for me that you'd taken the time to go and chat to all the town fans that had travelled so far.
Well, I mean, I've no to hide, so it don't worry me. I'm happy to talk to them. I want them to come, and I want them to enjoy it. Yeah. I prefer them to lose, like you did at FA Cup. So I prefer them to lose, but I want them to enjoy it, and I want them to come back because half our income, match day income, comes from away fans.
Yeah.
So why would we not look after that? If it were, somebody were coming to my house and travelled from Ipswich, I'd make you a brew when you come. And it's brilliant. You could
love that.
And they kind of like put them in the corner. I say to ours, look, with no roof on that away end, if it rains, give them free option to go into the stand. Just open gates and let them go in. Everybody said you can't do it. We just did it. said it's up to half of them just stayed in the way and getting absolutely soaked through.
I was in the stand that day, and then is that a new stand, Andy, down the side there you got built?
Yeah.
It's a good stand, that is.
Yeah, it's a stand within our budget and that fits our club. We had ideas originally about big fancy things, but fans don't appreciate that. They just want a reasonable price pint and a pie. They want to be able to access anywhere they want. They want to feel part of the club, and they want to be able to move around. They don't want to be hustled and bustled with stewards. I mean, we spend a lot of time with stewards, and they're fantastic people. They're more than likely to shake your hand and tell you to shift. Our steward.
It's a real refreshing. It's a refreshing attitude, Andy, because we've complained that Ipswich has become a little bit soulless. Like we didn't know what Evans looked like for 6-7 years, and we've not heard from him since December. And I don't know. It's easy to get lost in football and Sky, isn't it? To become an armchair fan, but it seems like your down to earthness is what's appealing about Accrington, I think.
I mean, you do go through periods when nothing's going right, and you feel like just walking away. As an old, when Accrington lose, I'm sick, especially when it's in FA Cup and there's £100,000 of prize money.
Yeah.
I'm. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to lose ever. I'm not. Well, some people call me a loser, but I don't think I am, and I'm certainly not if I'm playing cards with John Colman. An owner is sick as well. Don't think for 1 minute Marcus Evans don't want to win. That's what I would say.
Okay, take your word for it.
We will, absolutely. Callie, Andy's thoughts in an owner not meeting with their official support. We may get to that a bit later on in the show. Google user, all we need is someone who doesn't mind losing 10 million a year, and we're sorted. And that's what we were saying before the show, wasn't it, Andy? It's a business that it's a lot of money owners put in, and sometimes fans don't appreciate that side of it fully.
Well, I mean, Marcus has been into it for big money. You've been up there in Championship, but when did you last win? When we last in Premiership? Were it 2000?
2000. Yeah, 2000.
2002.
So,
2002. Yeah.
nearly 20 years.
And the money to get up there now. I mean, everybody's fighting to get up that pyramid. But when you get into Championship, they're blowing money like it's gone out of fashion. They're selling stadia. They're doing all sorts of tricks. So unless you're a billionaire, unless you're up there and you generate a lot of cash, do you really want to go and get involved in all that? So you've got to be committed, and you've had a good go at it, and you look at accounts of clubs and you look at size of clubs. Now we're just looking at clubs between your position now, which is virtually where we are, and mid-table Championship. There's some enormous clubs. You're one of them.
Yeah.
Is there 8 teams, Martin, in League One that have been a Premier League team?
Last time I counted, I thought there was. Yes. Yeah. As the Championship becomes more competitive, League One, as a result, is also becoming just as competitive, and teams, us, Sunderland, just to name 2, and up and down the pyramid. So in a lot of ways, money at the top end of the game has really distorted it, but in other ways, it's really made competitive football at other areas of the game, such as League One. And I've got this on. We have this wheel, and we like to bring some topics onto the wheel. But somebody's just asked, so I might as well bring it straight out. George Huggins, did you deal with Evans direct over the Janoi Danasian and Kayden Jackson deals, or did you deal with somebody else?
No, I dealt direct. We cut agents. We didn't discuss it with agents. We refused to talk to agents, and I dealt direct with Marcus. And I have to say, it was straight up all the way through.
How did you find it? Was just nice, easy, no issues at all.
Easy. There were a lot of arguments and negotiations.
I can imagine. Yeah.
It were fair. We weren't trying to be underhand. There were no. We both agreed that if anybody went to agents, then it'd be a problem, because we wanted to be able to walk away and nobody be upset, the players or yourselves or whatever. So I mean, he's a clever chap. He knows what he's doing. And he's a good chap.
It's like buying my house, Matt. It was arguments. So I can imagine.
I was told Evans was like a ruthless negotiator, Andy. Right? Was that the experience you had from him, or he was just on an even kill with you?
I'm used to it.
Yeah,
so, negotiation did go on for a week or two, backwards and forwards, and both of us walked away at one point. and we finished up somewhere in the middle. I mean, Kayden had another club lined up in any case, so it really made no difference to us.
Was that Peterborough? Peterborough were after him, weren't they?
Yeah, well,
you know, and I always thought he might have been better off at Peterborough from Kayden's point of view.
Probably would have been, yeah.
Because
How does it work, Andy? Are all the negotiations on a phone, or do you meet at a hotel somewhere? I mean, how does it work?
it's been that were done by phone, but it's been a bit of both. Sometimes where things go wrong when we have sold players is because at our club we have to get the best out of them because we haven't got many left. You know, so people do get time. If you come to us, you know, we take people from non-league. They're going to get a game, so they're going to get a chance to show what they've got, and they're not just going to get 5 minutes and come on at 85th minute and then get took off in the match and never see pitch again. They're going to play. So you know, these lads that we bring in get a fair chance, and they don't get that at bigger clubs where they have bigger squads, and you know they have to hit the ground running. Otherwise, they're on bench and they get demoralised, and you start to unwind. They get on a run, the players, and they just get better and better and better. But if you take them out of team for a year, it becomes a problem.
You mentioned you felt Jackson may have been better going to Peterborough at that time. Were you surprised to hear Marcus Evans from Ipswich Town on the other end of the phone for either player? Were you a bit taken back?
Marcus was on first.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Marcus was on first.
Well, there you go.
Before I spoke to Barry or Dara at Peterborough. But the one thing about Peterborough, their MO is to take strikers that they see as the best around at that level, and they develop them to sell them. So that's it, you know, and that is great for a player. It's great for us because we get to sell them as he sells, and it's great for everybody. As you go to bigger clubs, you know, as they go bigger, you know, if you jump straight up to top of a championship, the chances of them getting it first team and staying in first team is more difficult. So for me, going to Peterborough would have been good, and so should going to Ipswich because they're good players.
Yeah, I find they're good players. I've really enjoyed watching Kayden Jackson, particularly. Disappointing, Matt, just to see how things are at the moment, and we've covered that obviously on previous podcasts. But interesting. It's always, as a fan, it really interests me, the intricate details of a transfer negotiation, because I suppose it's the one thing that is still really behind closed doors, isn't it, Crunch? You never quite enough information made available to a fan, is there?
No, you don't really know what's going on. Andy, did you try and get Janoy back on loan in January? Because there was rumours that you were linked with him. Yeah,
we did. We tried to get him back, but it didn't work for whatever reason. I mean, we only have we're salary capped this year, and we're a lot below the salary cap, and we're not breaking it. So we would have only offered up to a limit, and it might be that Fleetwood offered more. I
was looking earlier at doing a bit of research. It says your wage bill is 1.45 million per year. Is that sort of accurate?
A bit lower than that. It were up to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
How does it work on the transfers, Andy? Would Ipswich pay you instalments for Kayden, for example?
Yeah, that were paid over 3 August. So the first August you paid a third, 2nd August. So over 2 years, 3 August. All done right, and went well. And I were hoping you'd sell him to Bournemouth for 15 million. Because we've got to sell him.
Is that a relative, Matt? Have you just put a message on screen there?
Must be his brother or someone.
Is that your wife?
I've known for about 15 years, yeah.
Oh, there you go. You should have said that, Matt. You should have just had it as a fan.
I'm being honest. I'm a fan club's in, Andy.
Talk about recruitment, Andy. Dara was saying how active he is in his recruitment. He's really active, takes a big interest, scouts players himself. Do you leave that to a team? Do you get actively involved with it?
I leave it to Colman. John Colman and his lads, and he has a network behind him that roots him out. But I mean, we're a bit more speculative, so we're unlikely to go and buy a player from Championship and have to put a lot of effort into that. So we took two lads out of non-league, Dion Charles and Colby Bishop, and they're hitting form now. So the gamble for us is a lot lower, and I kind of feel that's how it should be. I think lads should be going up the pyramid. We need to be digging deeper down and finding these players.
That's what we don't do we, Matt? We've said there's some good players lower down the pyramid, but we never sort of go for these players, and I don't know why.
We've often lamented that, Andy. Yeah,
you can't have it all. If you'd have took Colby and Dion last year, your manager would have played him as much as we've played him, and then he'd have been the biggest fool that ever walked. So it's difficult, really. As you get to a club your size, the expectations are a lot higher than they are at our club. So
Colby Bishop's the lad who was a school teacher, right?
Yeah, school. He had to work. We signed him on. He couldn't come for the first week because he had to finish his lessons.
He got 2 against us last year, didn't he, Matt? He scored 2 in the game at your place when we lost 2.
Everyone loves those. Everyone loves those kind of stories, isn't it? Someone coming from just a normal background, a normal job. Andy giving them a break at Accrington. People love those kind of stories. They're the kind of stories people want to read about.
But I guess Andy's right in what he says, isn't he? But it's the expectation level in terms of look at this year, for example. Accrington Stanley sitting 7th, fantastic, as Andy was saying before the show. That's great. Let's see where it goes. Whereas Town sitting only a few points off them, it's sort of disaster zone. It's different expectation, isn't it, Andy? That's what you're talking about there.
It is, and to be honest, I think sometimes you put too much pressure with too much expectation on yourself. As a club, you will go up. You will find that right formula to get the right group of players, and you will go up. You get managers in, they don't get any time nowadays. The pressure and the expectation is too long. When we were, I made it clear from day one that I wouldn't sack John Colman, even if we went out of league. I wouldn't do it. I'm behind him, whatever he does, and he knows that. We're mates now. And he always says to me, "You've got me back, whatever happens." And all the managers have said it to me too. They've said the difference between Accrington and other clubs is that your manager's free to do it how he wants to do it. He's not worried about a chairman sacking him every 5 minutes. He's not worried about making odd mistakes. Coley's made loads of mistakes. He'll admit it. But, on balance, it makes more winners than losers. But if you weren't given time to turn them into winners, they wouldn't be winners. So the level of expectation at our club, it's a different club. It is a family club and it is a friendly club. It's always run a bit like a non-league club because it was non-league up to 2006. When we lose at end of match, we have a pound a pint when we win with fans. Are going a few pints with fans. Then it's bedlam. They're going up buying 12 pints at a time. And when we lose, we go in and it's subdued. And I don't know if it's because it's £2.50 a pint that it's subdued or because we've lost. And I go in there and at my head's, on floor matchings on floor, and the fans come up to me and say, "You can't win them all, boss." And they understand. They just don't want to lose the club again. There's people still at Accrington from when the club went bust, when it went out of league, and they tell you about it. They still got a tear in their eye. Proper fans, going back 50 years. So my job's to make sure that doesn't happen again now or into the future.
Yeah.
It's not
you must be inspired, Andy, by Wickham seeing another small club, and they were favourites for relegation last season, suddenly getting promoted back into the championship. So that must give you inspiration to think that you sit 7th at the moment, you could make that final leap and go top 6.
And Coventry, and we won League 2. And beat Luton into second place, and Coventry and Wickham. And them 3 out of 4 of us that came up and we won title are in. It's it's not just about money. You need the money. You need the facilities. Further up you go, you definitely do. But it's not just about money. We have a great spirit about the place all the time, and I think it's because we don't have big stars at Aki. Everybody's part of a team, and they're also lads that are aspiring to go up. There's not many. A lot of, I think, average like 24. So it's not just about money.
We mentioned the salary cap there. With the salary cap coming in and obviously now going out, but when it coming in, did all the managers meet up with the FA to discuss the rules? Did the chairman? Do you send a representative? I've got somebody asking in the chat, which is why I'm asking. How did it work this summer, particularly with all the different rule changes and the clubs finding out?
Well, salary cap came in because everybody were mourning they were going to go bust. So don't forget, COVID's coming. With no income from crowds. Everybody's on their arse really as a football club because you were ending up with millions adrift because of the size of your crowd, and we needed something to control costs. And because we'd all lost income, we're all naked now. None of us have any income. So Ipswich are not in much different place to us. Your losses will be a lot higher than ours. It needed control, and you can't go begging off Premier League if you're just going to carry on spending like there's no issue. You can't expect the Premier League to pay ridiculous salaries and wage bills in League One. So we had to do something, and that salary cap at the time were agreed and voted for.
Do you think the government should have helped you more, Andy?
Yeah, I think they should. But they didn't.
Because you think look at other sports, Matt, that have had quite a lot of money put into them, and football seems to be sort of way down the scale.
Look at other industries, Rich. I think it was arts and culture.
Yeah.
They got, maybe even a billion. I've got out of it. I'll have to go back and look at the numbers. But yeah, it's weird how the DCMS hasn't kind of helped football out. I don't get it. They probably think there's too much money in the top end of the game, Andy, and that needs to filter down from the Premier League into the Football League, I guess.
Don't forget, Premier League had just spent 1.2 billion or something like that on players and transfers. Yeah. 200 million alone.
Exactly.
So there were no sympathy.
No
sympathy. Football should look after itself. It's got enough cabinet, and that was government's position. So we had to cut his cloth accordingly, and I've had a few interesting debates on Twitter with fans about from Portsmouth particularly, because they're always banging on about it. I'm always banging on about salary cap, and it's a state of mind because I want a salary cap so that things don't run away with itself. I'm not saying 2.5 million's right; could be 5 or 6 million, but it shouldn't be unlimited. Now I want a salary cap to stop the mad excesses of football, and if Portsmouth go up or if you go up, you'd really want a salary cap because you don't want you're playing against teams that are blowing miles more money than you, and you are in that place. Then your attitude changes then because you're saying, "Hang on a minute, somebody's coming down with 44 million parachute."
Yeah.
So the same they become your problems if you go up.
Yeah.
Become my problem if I go up as well.
Matt Stannard, Andy, you're a breath of fresh air. You could be blaming X, Y, Z. I love your realism and the way you got on with it. And he earlier asked, what's your setup like? Like what? Because obviously you mentioned earlier in the show you perhaps wasn't a diehard football fan growing up. So do you have people around you consult with? Do you lean on to before making major decisions? What's your support sort of structure like? In
terms of football or
yeah.
Well, there's very few of us. We've got a CEO, Dave Burgess, Chief Executive of Lancashire FA, and we've got John Colman and Jimmy Bell. A couple of others around the club, and people like Bumble that put in, and when Bumble seems to know when I'm pissed off because I get a text off him or I get and he knows the game, does Bumble, and he's like, keep going and don't let it get you down because you do end up. It depresses you. Does football at times? It depresses fans, and other times you're like,
you know all about that.
I'm really 18, Andy. I don't look it. I know, but
well, I'm only 21. So yeah, and support structures there, and. Believe it or not, a lot of other chairmen and owners, they get on to me, and they've been really helpful. Risdale at Preston and Carroll down at Port Vale, and I can just go on. Dara, and they're good guys. Barry Fry, I get on well with Barry, and and you've got the tension that you have in a game, football club against football club. But outside that, all the owners do get on. There's not much animosity. And they should do because we're all at the same boat.
Absolutely. And obviously you look at Lincoln now, Matt, really having a great season. They were a club that was really proactive during the COVID summer, as we call it. How did Stanley sort of cope during that summer with people obviously on furlough or players out of contract, not knowing the situation? Were you proactively looking at players? What was it like? Talk us through what it was like the summer for Stanley in terms of COVID and everything else.
Summer weren't bad. There were quite a few players available and some good players. There were players we got from clubs that we felt really lucky to get them. We got Michael Nottingham from Blackpool. We think he's a great player. He's getting on a bit. He'll be about 30 or something like that, but great player. Cam Burgess played at Salford. Don't mention Salford. From Salford, and we took some really good players to supplement our rest of our young lads. And then we've got the team that have been there in all my time there: Seamus Keneally, Sean McConville, Mark Hughes.
Have you got any on loan from Chelsea? Because you had I think you had 2 or 3 last season, didn't you, from Chelsea?
Yeah, with 3 on loan from Chelsea, with Nathan in goals, Johnny Russell midfielder, and Tariq Whiteway on wing. Yeah. And they're good players, but they're young. They're 19. I think Nathan's a bit older than that, but all the lads are 19. And they're finding the way, and it'll do them good. To play.
Was that John Colman who sorted that, Andy? How did you get that kind of link? Because three players from one club's quite a big hit, isn't it?
It is, but to be honest, you find with Premier League, they don't mind letting them go out if they're going to play.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are taking loan players and they're not giving them games. As soon as it starts going wrong, they're not giving them games. Whereas we do the job for us, they'll get the games. So our playing squad's so small that we can't not play them. And that's what I'm saying. Players get a better chance at ours than they would at your play, for example.
We got a squad of how many players we got, Matt? 31 at the minute.
Our actual squad of professionals is like 50, isn't it? 51 or 50. Something. We've got 5. Was it 5 loans?
6.
I think we've got 19. I think we've got 19.
Such a difference.
And then a load of kids. Some have come to the academy like Ross Sides, great player. Toby, goalie, 4 clean sheets before we lost to Lincoln, and then Nathan got a chance. And if somebody's doing well, Coley will keep playing him because that's how he is. He doesn't like making changes. So we have a really small, close knit team. And
what's the training ground set up like, Andy? Because we're just speaking about Salford, and everyone's seen them on the Sky documentary and that, but they have to train over at some kind of football foundation place in the other side of Manchester. What kind of setup have you guys got?
Well, we on our Accrington Stanley Foundation has a few pitches. They're waterlogged at the minute, but they've got a 3G pitch so we can go on there. And local clubs help us out. So last week we were, I know owner of Clitheroe. That I don't know what tier they're in, but they're below us. And they've said we're finished for season because of cash situation. You can train on our pitch. So they maintain it, pitch and letting us train on there, and you get that because we're not fancy. We don't need out fancy. We'll train on. Well, you want to see what we've trained on? Not joking.
I can imagine.
You want to see what we used to play on, like a bolting lake. So, and it's getting better, but it's still not perfect. But we are what we are, and I think we're better being what we are. Rather than getting ideas above the station.
Well, this is what we were chatting about this afternoon. Me and the guys here, we were chatting about this because I think what you've got in John Colman, kind of, and yourself, you kind of reflect the character of what Accrington Stanley is. And we had that with Bobby Robson going back a few years back, and then John Lowe when he came to us, and George Burley. But we have such a disconnect now of the ownership and the manager. Remember our manager's Norwich City Hall of Famer. That's why we've got disconnect. I think you've got such great connection. You're the opposite end of the scale to what we've got at the moment.
Well, we to be honest, I can't rely on 20,000 fans a week. So, in terms of any model of any business, football club or whatever, I've got to keep people happy to grow a club. So it makes sense to look after the supporters home and away. It makes sense to look after season ticket holders, and it makes sense to talk to them. And I know loads of them by first name. I forget the names when I've had a few pints in winners hour, but I know most of them by it's stewards and stewardesses and what have you.
Yeah.
I make myself available because in early days, the only reason I got on Twitter was because my daughter came in and she said, have you seen what they're saying, Dad, with this? And I said, well, what's that? She said, it's Twitter. So I've never heard of it. And she said, and I said, well, that's not right. She said, I know it's not. She said, you're going to have to go on. So anyway, I get on Twitter. I didn't even know what buttons were for. And I started saying, hang on a minute, you're wrong in that. That's not how it is. This is how it is. Yeah. And I answered every question that anybody asked. And said, look, if you want to ask, just ask. And in football, if you don't talk to people, this is my advice to any chairman. If you're not available to talk and put your position there, things grow out of control quickly. They accelerate. Yeah. And quite often, you forget where it started, the problem. It's such a little thing that feeds unrest and it grows and grows and grows. Before you know it, you're the biggest knob that ever walked.
Yeah. From a small acorn becomes an oak tree of shit.
So for me, it was important to me, and it was my daughter that showed me, and it was important to me to make myself available to our fans at all times, because I don't want any money out of Accrington. I've no ulterior motive. I'm not taking dividends. Whatever's generated and spent on their club, it's their club. I'm doing a job, and I'll do it as long as they want me to, or until I get sick of it, whichever comes first. And there'll come a time when, we're all owners, when your time is to move on, and they'll let me know. And when it is, I'll move on. That'll be that. But as long as it's part time, I'm 60.
And where do you, when you leave Stanley, if you, in your plan of Stanley, where do you want to leave them? 5 years time, 3 years time. What's the sort of the plan at the moment for Stanley and where they're heading?
I took it on at 50 and said I wanted to be out at 60. And I do want to be out at 60, but by out, I mean not in the hot seat. So I want to spend time with my grandkids. I want to go on holiday, and I want to be away for a month and have enough money myself to do what I want. I don't need to, apart from blow it on players and football clubs, that is. And I want to have a bit of a life. But there's no way I'd walk away from Accrington unless I was sure it were right. So it might take another 10 years. It might take 2 or 3 years to get somebody that's the right sort of person, and slowly bring him in, and if it works, and maybe let him have a bit more share and let him take control that way. But there's no way. I mean, we've bought his ground now. We've got stands. We've sorted place out. It's not by any stretch of imagination perfect, but we're getting it right. And the last thing I want is somebody to come in, Ox Stadium up, build a big squad to attempt a challenge on title, then we end up back with no stadium and no club again.
Yeah, lose your identity as well.
I was looking last night, Andy. I see your fans club together. They bought you got a screen as well, haven't you, at the ground that they all paid for?
Listen, they've done all sorts. We've got TVs in all fan zones that they've paid for. There's a memorial garden that they've paid for. I mean, they're raising tens of thousands of pounds, and they said to me originally, look, if you need it to help with the club, we'll give it you. And I said, I don't want it. Just go and make it. Spend it on what makes it a better experience for fans. So they wanted a screen up, and I said, well, if you want one, get on with it. Feel free to raise the money and do it. And they did. And they work hard. They're lifelong Stanley fans, and it's brilliant to have people like that. Painting and decorated place where being asked, so they just come in and do it as though it's their own.
What you want to do on a Saturday? You work hard in the week. Go to the foot with your mates and have a few pints, don't you? And you've got it spot on. I could listen to you all night talking. It's like I remember back when we had David Sheepshanks back in the 90s, and he used to go around the ground and he used to talk to you. And obviously now our owner, we didn't know what he looked like for 6 years.
Yeah,
you've got to. All I would say is, Marcus is a good chap, and he's put a lot of money into Ipswich over years. And if you get an egg roll time, you're less likely to do anything. So it all becomes counterproductive. It becomes one person don't want to do it because they're grumbling, managers rubbish, players rubbish, everything's shite. And before you know it, you start to think to yourself as an owner, what do I need this for?
Yeah.
So I'm not talking from a fan's perspective, because from other side, you're just sick of not winning. You get sick of in that position, and you want to see your team turn around. But there is a balance, and there's not a shadow of a doubt. If you said to Marcus, "Do you want to win or lose on a Sat?" He'll say win. Do you know what I mean? But the football over years, football's changed. So you are not going top 6 in Premier League in my lifetime. That's my little bet. No matter how much Marcus spends, because it's fit up. It's gone.
The funny thing is, Andy, when we finished 5th back in 2001, we didn't have any real big names at that point, and it was practically the team that had got promoted from what was Division 1 Championship into the Premier League. So it was kind of more of that model that suited Ipswich, and the kind of the model you've got there had that identity, so had that Suffolk spirit, we like to call it. But yeah, we seem so far removed from that now. Do you know what I mean?
But it's not you that's changed. It's the game that's changed.
Yeah.
So the environment that you're in that's changed. That's forced to change on you. So there's teams in bottom of Premier League losing. They're getting 100 million a year and still losing mega bucks. I mean, you look at Championship. Mel's lost, and Mel's a lovely guy. Get on really well with him. He's lost 200 million at Derby.
At Derby, yeah.
So and Derby, what, half a league above you, a bit more mid-table, but they're only just, they're not a million miles away from you if you looked at top to 92, and that's the level that you're up against. You've got Ulster in the ground. You've got all sorts of stuff. Wigan, I mean, they're FA Cup winners, and look where they are.
Yeah. I mean, what would you put behind the fact that we've seen a rise of a lot of traditionally smaller clubs, haven't we, gone to the Premier League? Your Burnleys, your Brightons, Bournemouth.
Yeah, but Bournemouth, Matt, I don't buy that. Bournemouth are a little club. They've spent millions.
Don't get Martin started on Bournemouth.
Yeah,
but it's interesting, isn't it? These traditionally smaller clubs have somehow managed to go through the pyramid and, like Andy says, and get to the Premier League. I mean, Burnley are well, until they had these new owners come in, they were operating a profit, right? They had a good model going on.
Yeah, they gathered on that. Went to school with Mike Garlick, Burnley Grammar School. So it must be a thing around here that we operate with what we've got, because it's a working class town. It's not a. Do
you think that'll change now? They've got new owners coming, Andy. With obviously the Americans are coming in. Do you think that'll change with what they want? Because obviously Sean Dyche has been there 7 or 8 years. Would they look to maybe replace him, or do you think he's got he's got a safe job there at the minute?
If it were me, I wouldn't replace Sean Dyche at all. I wouldn't even dream of it. That'd be just that, and I'd just make the world know it. And even if we went down, I wouldn't replace him, because my attitude would be the same as it were with John Colman. If we went down to League 2, who would I pick to get us out of there? And it's same with Burnley. If they went to Championship, who would you pick? And sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for. And when you get somebody that's done it over 7 or 8 years,
we had that when Mick went.
Well, there you go. I mean, it was boring, crappy football, but it kept you where you needed to be in Championship. But I mean, as a fan, I'm a fan and an owner, but I looked at what happened to Blackburn. With Venky's out, they've lost 120 or 30 million or whatever. They're losing it like it's going out of fashion. And when with Venky's out, they went down to League 1 and started winning, and all of a sudden it was, what a great club this is, because they were winning and they won League 1, sorry, and winning and getting the crack going again. People are happy, even if it's in a lower league. So for you, what's desperately needed at Ipswich for me is to get that crack going and everybody get behind it, push it on, and really give it. And you're going up to the Championship, and when you do, you lose another packet of money. So you want a billionaire, really. You need a billionaire.
There's rumours, Andy, that we're getting taken over, but no one can tell us at the moment. But
I mean, at the end of the day, you're a club that's so well supported. You're as well supported as Burnley, probably better supported than a lot of clubs up in Premier.
Yeah, that's what we look at, don't we, Matt? When we look at the Premier League and the teams that are in there, and you think, are they bigger than Ipswich? Probably they're not, are they? But they've been well run. It's galling, Andy, when you look at Norwich up the road from us. They've been really well run. I know they're a bit of a yo-yo club, but
have they been lucky? We you get a bit of luck as well. It only takes one bad decision at a playoff final, and before you know it, year in the doldrums.
They certainly seem to have got their infrastructure right, Andy. They've got Stuart Webber in as this kind of like overseeing director of football staff. Then they got Farker in, who's obviously proved that he's a decent manager, albeit sitting somewhere between the top end of the Championship, bottom end of the Premier League.
The model's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're a lucky club, but what I'm saying is luck plays a big part. You know, the model's great. I like the model. You know, keep it under control and keep.
You can slate noise if you want, Andy. You're on a town podcast there, mate.
Well, I wonder. I'd be proud if I were running Norwich. I'd be absolutely proud. I think it's doing a fantastic job. So I'm not criticising. What I am saying is, luck plays a big part, and you can get. You know, if you look at Shrewsbury when in League One a couple of seasons ago, when Wigan and Blackburn went up, they lost Checkatrade final. They missed going up by a goal difference or something note, and their fortunes.
And then we got their manager,
Paul Hurst, yeah.
Paul Hurst, yeah. But then you're like 6 or 8 million less revenue for on 2 football results. You know.
Did you, Andy? Did you think Paul Hurst would do a good job at Ipswich, or did you think that was a job too soon for him? It was too big a jump maybe for him to come into Ipswich Town from Shrewsbury.
I don't think anybody will do a good job unless they give him time. So when you take a manager on, you know, they're going to struggle. You know, but if you went in a new job of work and you had to get to know all people, it'd take you a year before you knew ratings and wrong'uns. You can't, you know, you can't pick a team and you can't assemble a team in the space of a few weeks. You know, now you get big shot managers that can come and do it. Some good managers like Neil Warnock and Sam Allardyce, and they do it on reputation because everybody thinks they'll bring other people in and what have you. But it don't happen so often, and you know, I think you've got to give them a chance. Football don't allow it. You know, it's awful for managers because they're looking over the shoulder. There's no loyalty with managers because there's no loyalty to managers.
It's not used to this. It's expectation. If you take Wickham, for instance, guys, you know, they've had Gareth Ainsworth there. He's been there, 7-8 years. If they go down, they won't sack him. They'll go again with him. And you think it's like the size of your club, Matt, because you think Ipswich, we've been, what's this, second season in League One, and we all think we should be doing better, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's a good question, Andy. I mean, what do you think? I mean, Mike D in the comments here, Lambert's had 2.5 years at Pullman Road, Andy. Do you think he's doing a good job, or do you think Ipswich should be in the top 3 right now? What as a new, you know, even though you're sitting above us,
all right. Let me put it to you another way. Who do you think shouldn't be in top 3 then?
Who should be in the top 3?
Who shouldn't be? Whose place should you be taking? You know,
good point. We've been big fans of Peterborough, so they're top at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Lincoln have probably recruited better than us. Mightn't always lose to this on our podcast every week. So what, they second? And then what's Hull third now?
Hull third.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so you haven't come down from the Championship. You'd expect them to be floating around. So yeah, good point.
You know, there's
Portsmouth as well, floating around. Yeah.
Yeah, Sunderland. You've got there's some big clubs about. So all of a sudden, bottom half of Championships looking a bit like top half of League One. The size of clubs are massive. And it's,
we should get 10 points for winning the UEFA Cup 40 years ago, Andy. Give us a head start, yeah.
I think that's what you deserve, really. I think that's what Man United and top 6 are doing. That European Cup, aren't they? They're like saying, Grandma once had a Man United scarf. I should get automatic entry, no matter where we.
Yeah.
But you talk about time for managers. So you know, from your perspective as an owner, how long is long enough before you start to say, well, this is what I want to be seeing now? You know, how long do you give a manager?
Well, for me, I'd be talking to you guys and everybody, supporters clubs and everybody, and saying, look, we want to put a base into the club. This is what we're going to do, and I'd talk you through the process, and I'd be saying, and if we don't achieve it, then we'll make changes and move on. And you'd be clear on what the rules were, and you wouldn't be forever then saying manager should be sacked or owner should go. I'd set the targets, and you'd measure it against them targets, and that'd then determine the action. And everybody clear about it up front. Manager would know, players would know, and everybody would know. And so it becomes not an argument then; it becomes a matter of fact. And everybody knows where they stand then.
And there's no shadows, is there, to argument? Nowhere you can say, "Oh, I've heard this" or "I heard that," and
then it doesn't help. It doesn't help with our manager. He got a 5-year contract, so that's the reason why he's probably still there, because Marcus has given him that contract, and he's thinking, is he thinking now that was a mistake because he hasn't backed it?
But that's the problem, isn't it? You're thinking it, whereas Andy's saying he would say it. He would say, "Look, this is what the 5-year deal was all about."
So Marcus might rate him, so you've got to.
I rate him.
Well, look, at the end of the day, it becomes counterproductive because you end up with such a negative feel around you.
Oh, it is at the minute.
Everybody can't be arsed with club. If every time I went to Accrington, I got a load of stick. I'd say, bollocks, I'm not going in. I'm going pub, local pub on the Saturday instead. I don't need. I'm doing my best, but what I'm prepared to be is be judged against what I agree I'm going to do. So I'm clear with what we're doing at Accrington. I'm clear with where we want to be and what the job I'm trying to do is, and everybody knows it. And if there come a time when
we don't know, and this is what we don't know. You're coming on here and you're telling us what you're doing for your football club, whereas our owner, we don't know what he's doing. We don't hear from him enough. And I know it's a bit. I'm going to say we're a bigger club because we are, but we still need the transparency from the top, and then everybody knows what's going on at the minute. This is why our supporters, we're not very happy because no one knows what's going on.
That's always the case. It's communication. It's always the case in any business. If everybody down to the bottom tier in a business isn't on board with what you're trying to do and doesn't understand what you're trying to do, they get disenchanted in any business. If somebody knows what you're trying to do, if I said to you, this is what we're trying to do, and you see me sweating to try and achieve it, if I fail, you're more likely to say, well, at least we tried. Because you're part of it then. As soon as you're part of that story and understand what we're trying to do, you become bought into that story then. And everybody can fail. And if it fails, well, we get somebody else or I move on. But
you're very vocal, obviously, on Twitter, Andy. But do you do a lot of stuff with like the local media? How do you normally communicate with fans? What's your go-to kind of medium for that?
Well, I talk to them. I talk to a lot of them on WhatsApp.
Yeah,
they send me WhatsApps all the time. I get them virtually every day, every other day. So I answer them and I take the time to them. And I'm at a point now I can just say it as it is, and they're telling me as it is, and we get on well. But they're decent, hard-working people, And we're all from the same area. We're not. I'm off a council estate, and I'll be honest. They brought me. I made a few bob, and probably got ideas above my station. Clever arsing because I made a few bob and fancy car and a 500 quid suit or whatever, and getting ideas above my station and going back to Aki, it brought me back to where I belong and got me realizing that I were on a wrong track, and they're good people, so it's been a good exercise for me personally in terms of not forgetting where I come from, because as you go up and earn more money, all your mates seem to be left behind. You end up driving around in flash cars, and so I've done all that crap, and that Accrington's brought me back down to my roots, and I enjoy it. I wish I'd never left.
A lot of our listeners are absolutely loving you, Andy. Absolutely loving you. All saying, we wish I had an owner like you. Absolutely class. I love you, Andy. Has come in quite a few times.
If I were owning you when I lost 2 matches, you'd be saying, "Ulti out."
Get him out.
Half time on this show, mate. It'll be Ulti out. We don't even do 90 minutes on this one, do we, Crunch?
We haven't even talked about next week's match.
No, we haven't. So let's bring it round to that. So what do you expect? Obviously you expect 3 points, but when you're facing Ipswich, I always say I don't think many teams are scared of Ipswich. Do you look at the fixture list and say Ipswich and scared, or are you looking at it as an opportunity?
Well, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of anybody because, well, for one, I'm not scared of result. So I know our lads are going to give it 110%, and that's all I ask. And if we get beat, it won't be for want of trying. So I'm not scared of facing Ipswich, and I'm not scared of a result one way or another. I think it'd be a really tough match. I think when we played down at your place last time we played, we got beat 2-0, and you outclassed us. I think it was 2-0. You outclassed us all match for me. At our place, we beat you in the FA Cup. I think we've had 4 games, and won 2 apiece, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we know we can beat you if we're on his metal, but we'll have to be. I'm hoping we do. Obviously, I'm going for 1-0 to us.
You were the start of our downfall. You were on Sky, yeah.
Liverpool.
Us Liverpool. It was going to be my fault.
It's your fault, Andy.
Well, no, because you put the blueprint out, and then Rotherham matched it on the Tuesday afterwards, and from there it's been absolutely downhill.
It's crap. It is crap when you're losing, and I'm Sunday morning if we've lost on a Saturday. I mean, we got beat with Crewe to the night, and I'm like, just going to bed. I've had enough. It is crap losing. But you've got to keep it in context.
Matt don't even get excited when we win, though, does he?
No, I'm too disconnected. I feel like I should be supporting Accrington.
I think I will do after this.
Spirit, I'm loving that. I haven't got the accent though, Andy. Unfortunately,
there's all sorts of accents in Accrington. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure, yeah.
But, so I'm going for us 1-0. I know it'd be a tough match, but I won't be surprised if it's 1-0 all the way. Or whatever. It's not going to be a big score either way. I don't think you're going to score a bagful against us.
No. Well, we've only scored 30 goals all season, haven't we?
Yeah, we don't score many. We don't concede many, neither do we? So
don't jinx it.
So, we're 7th, and we're only 2 points in front of you, I think, aren't we? So you're not far off.
I think you're further than that. 4 points.
No, we got 44, and they've got 46, Matt.
Oh, okay.
You've got a game in hand, Andy. Who you got Fleetwood? You got Fleetwood Saturday, haven't you?
Yeah. So we'll be giving that a best shot. But what I'm saying is we're not far off playoffs, and you're only a couple of points off playoffs. Scores are going to come in for you, and you're going to be in that playoffs. You're not going to get it top 2, I don't think, but you're going to get it playoffs, and then it can happen. So there's a lot of negativity around. I see it all over Twitter and everywhere on Ipswich, but a couple of wins and you're in there.
Yeah,
we've not won back-to-back games, Andy, since October, though.
Well, there's a lot of things you haven't done until you do it. So there's no to say that you can't win. Who are you playing Saturday?
Doncaster at home.
Well, we beat them. They've had a few rough results. They're a lot of games in front, so you've got a great chance against them. They're a good side. They are a
good manager. I like Darren Moore. He's a really good manager, I think.
They did us 4-1 at the Keep, Mo.
Yeah, they battered us, absolutely hammered us, didn't they? They really did.
What I'm saying is a couple of games, and all of a sudden you're in playoff, and we've a 6 pointer next Tuesday night. If you win it, all of a sudden you're starting to feel a lot better about yourself, and you've got to get yourself up. As bad as it is, you can't keep looking down, because you'll go down if you keep looking down. And you just got to say, look, let's get at it. If I it is hard as an owner. In fact, the fans pick me up, as I said, sometimes after a game. They come in and say, look, shit happens.
You sound like me, Andy. 49 points over here. You sound like me. You've got to keep looking up, keep striving, keep moving forward.
Well, I couldn't. If you were bottom of League One, I could understand it, but you're not far off playoffs. Your best hope now is to get a few games under your belt, try and get behind team, and things can look a different place in 2 or 3 weeks. Now. Well,
especially you're playing Saturday, Tuesday. If you win 3 or 4 games, suddenly you're going to spring. Look at Peterborough. I think they've won the last 5, haven't they? Now top of the league.
On that pitch, they have.
Yeah. Have you played there yet, Andy, on that pitch?
Well, our pitch has been hammered at the minute. We did, because of COVID job and no income, we didn't redo it at end of the year, and it's showing now. So I don't expect much of us on Tuesday, but it'll be flat.
Will you fire off a few messages to a few WhatsApps to Marcus before Tuesday? Get the banter going, get the rivalry flowing.
I feel for Marcus and the setup, because as an owner, it is when it's going bad, it goes really bad, and he'll be as sick as anybody. But I don't get the badness, because you're so close. I mean, if you get close to the end of the season and you're 6 or 8 points away from playoffs, then maybe have a right good go at them. But at the minute, if I'd be saying to our fans, look, let's just give it a shove now and see if we can get it.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem, though, Andy, what you said earlier about transparency and not letting things grow into bigger problems. And you just said there, speaking to your fans, I think for a lot of fans, actually, most of the gripes is the lack of transparency, the lack of communication, the lack of knowing what's going on. We perhaps would feel okay about Lambert's 5-year deal if we knew there was expectations, objectives, a plan. But it's that. Am I right, Rich and Matt?
We've had Dara on. Now we've had Andy on. You've sent messages to the club to get someone on, Martin, but nobody wants to come on and talk to us. So that's why everyone's really frustrated, because no one hears what's going on, like I've said before.
I mean, it's like when you fall out with somebody, it builds its own momentum. And you've got to try and break away from that and say, look, let's give it a go now. We're so close to playoffs. If we get into playoffs, we'll give it benefit of doubt and then have a very good crack at it and take next season on. Changing manager now is probably not going to be the best way to get into playoffs. I think you're in a point. I think you should be playing Kayden. I think you've got a great chance up there. So I just thought we don't take our place, but it is what it is. We're all going to do his best to get into playoffs, and you're on edge. So if you were 10 points behind, I'd be saying, look, you're more likely to end up in League Two, so you're better off kicking off and Evans out, Lambert out, and everybody else out.
Absolutely.
I'm there, but now you're so close to having a chance at getting back into Championship, and life will look different if you're going back up there. All of a sudden you'll start to feel a lot better.
Promise me, Andy, that when it's a Stanley Ipswich, either playoff semi or playoff final, you'll come back on the show. You'll preview it with us. Promise me that, as you're so optimistic, we're going to get on them.
If we are playing you in playoff final at Wembley, first time we get fans back as well, you won't want me on here.
I will. Definitely will. Particularly if we win.
Won't be Royal Box anyway. I'll be Royal away end, but rest at Stanley fans.
We'll have your seats in the Royal Box, Andy.
Yeah. They won't.
Matt likes a prawn sandwich. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, send us the comps.
The authorities in football aren't that keen on me. They like don't say what they think, and there is that. You're not allowed to say things on Twitter. I had that Burgergate and all sorts of stuff going on because of putting things on Twitter.
He's good friends with Gary Neville, Matt. Andy,
is he?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed that Salford documentary. I feel like Andy should have a documentary for Accrington. I know we've finished the Sunderland one on Netflix. I think Andy's got the character and the setup there. I think that'd be a great story to follow. Absolutely.
Listen, we'll just keep doing his best. There's no animosity between me and Gary. It's just good crack. But at the end of the day, he can afford to. Their owners are billionaires. They can afford to buy the way through division, and I think there has to be some limit on it. So we're always going to disagree on that. It's not a personal thing. If I'm mentioning a League Two club with a billionaire owner, it has to be Salford because that's the only one there is. Now a League One with a billionaire owner, it's got to be Sunderland. So it's not. I'm not picking at them. It's just a matter of fact. That's how it is.
It's a fact. Yeah, 100%.
And sorry, go on.
So it's not. There's no animosity. I wish them all the best. But at the end of the day, if I'm a billionaire, I'm not being in League Two for so long. I can tell you that for now. If there's no limit.
You'd love to be a billionaire at 23, wouldn't you, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, that lad.
Billionaire at 93 will do me, mate.
Unbelievable.
Just a billionaire at any point in my life will do me.
Start with 100 quid. You've got to start at bottom. 100 quid, you've got to start and double it up.
Absolutely.
I'll brag.
And as we bring this absolutely wonderful chat to its conclusion, I've got a question here, and it's quite a good one. And obviously, it goes into that. How do you draw a line between your role as the owner and, say, John Colman as the manager? So you've spent money on a striker. In this case, it's Kayden Jackson, and then your manager has a disagreement and puts him in the under 23s. How do you console that as an owner who's spent that money, who has made that investment, and draw the line between getting involved and saying play him, or getting back in the fold and sitting back? How do you do that?
Well, I mean that is the problem. You somebody buys a player and then another manager comes in and don't fancy him. And so you bring in a manager in and tell him who to play. So it becomes it's just quick turnover of managers is like a nightmare. But players have to earn the place. But if they don't play for long enough, they go off the boil. They lose interest. They want to be in every day. They want to play every week. And at Aki, they get that. I mean, Kayden, when he came to us, he'd been at Barnsley and Grimsby and a few places like that, and we did a deal with Barnsley, and he came to us and he got the chance to shine. And he had some crap games to start with, but finished up set place of fire. He were lightning. So, and you didn't pay too much because we had enough at the same price somewhere else.
He's had a lot of clubs, hasn't he, to be fair? He's worked his way through. He's like paid his dues, isn't he, Andy?
PV star.
We broke him.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
He got his chance, and that's because back to that small squad, they have to get a chance. They get a fair chance at Accrington because we've nobody else. So we have to work with what we've got, and if somebody shows aptitude like Kayden did, he's going to get a chance, and it's electric pace. I've seen him with his top off. He's built like a greyhound, but fat, fast, fit. And he's got all the ability, but he needs. They need confidence, and they get confidence by playing.
Yeah, he's my favourite striker. I think he's the best one we've got at the football club.
He's last year, wasn't it?
Yep.
Most goals, most assists. It was a no-brainer.
Absolutely. I'd play him every week.
I'd have had Yanni and Kayden, for that matter, on loan back at Aki in a heartbeat. John Colman tried to get Yanni back. He's a top lad, and I know him personally. He's a lovely lad, and he's a great player. But if your head goes down, if you're not getting games, that's what happens with players, and they go off boil.
Yeah, I don't think Lambert's ever fancied him, to be honest. And when he first came in, he was like, I don't think he really realised where he played. Was he a centre back? Was he a full back?
He had him at Villa, didn't he? He had him at Villa, man.
I feel like that probably clouded his judgment on him.
We played Villa. Right back, fast, strong, great player and a great lad. And the thing about Johnny is never grumbles. Just get on, work hard, get at it. Great player. There's not a shadow of a doubt he could play for you at your level, but it just doesn't work. And when you have a lot of choice, some players have to be left out. And there's less of that at Accrington. So, it's not maybe a slight on Yanni or Kayden that they're not in. It can be that your squad's that big. Your manager fancies somebody else.
And how much is Colby worth? Just as a side question, if you want to sell him in the summer.
We won't be looking to sell him because we need a championship.
Of course, yeah.
I love it. Good answer.
but listen, he's another great lad. We're blessed because it's such a tight knit team because we can only afford to have so many. People get on well. They don't stand out. You don't get like one half at dressing room doing one thing and other half doing another thing. You don't get cliques going on, and they get on well and they play with each other together as a team. So they're cheering each other on to win, even if they're not playing. I see how it stands away, and they're going mad for us to win, even though they're not playing, because they know one injury, a booking, or a sending off, and it could be their chance. And once they get in, away they go as well. So,
can I just ask you, Andy? How's Billy Key getting on now? Because obviously, when we come to yours last season, our fans had a banner, didn't they, Matt? Yeah. Wishing him well. So I just wondered how he's getting on.
Well, we had a supporters club. What's one of these things? Zoom we all supporters a couple of weeks ago, and they introduced somebody from Haslingden called Billy, and it was Billy Key, and he come on to Billy, and we had a right good natter about it. about past, and it kind of like all fans were there, and me, Billy, and a couple of others just talking like we were in a pub, and fans are just sat watching us, and I'm thinking, hang on, we've lost a script here. It's he WhatsApps me every time, every match he watches Andy Holt time. He had his issues and he needed a break from football, from the stresses of top level football. But he's a great player for Aki. I mean, I've always felt that I probably give him too much stick when we won promotion to League One. I wanted to win the trophy. So I'm at him, Billy, get into them lads and tell them that, this might be your only chance ever to win a League Two medal. Get at it. And, it was a tough year. A lot of games. And, it was really hard for him. And he decided it was time to cut it back and went building. But what a great lad. Great family. I miss him. In fact, these two that we've got now, Dion and Colby, they remind me of Kayden and Billy. In fact, the crack we've got this season reminds me of that year. Everything's goes in and happy, and that's what we want. Whatever happens, wherever we finish, they're a great bunch of lads.
Just need fans, don't you? Just a shame you ain't got fans there because you're doing really well, and you think the place would be bouncing, wouldn't it?
I mean, it's this COVID's been a sickness on all fronts. I've got staff that parents have died. I've got other members of staff now that can't even get upstairs because of COVID. It's been a nightmare for everybody, and I'm really bullish with this vaccine. And I'm thinking we're going to be back on with fans. Certainly for next season, we'll be back on at a decent level of fans. And I'm really hopeful now. I'm budgeting for a more or less a normal season next season. It'd be great for him to watch us play in a playoff semi-final or playoff final, in May when fans are allowed back. It'd be fantastic. It'd be fitting because, the thing about our fans, a lot of them bought season tickets. Back in October, we offered to give him 50% back because we knew that the season weren't going to be on, and some took it because they needed it. They'd lost their jobs and whatever, and a lot left it in. So it'd be great to give them something back before the end of the season. It'd be for me to put a tin hat on a great season.
100%. Love it. I actually could listen to you all night, Andy. I really could. I really could. I can't thank you enough for coming on and speaking to us. And I'm looking forward to nicking 3 points off you on Tuesday. You understand? But it's been a real pleasure.
I found it was 1-0, and. Listen, whatever happens, I wish you all the best, and your club and your manager and your owner. I think it's tough running a football club. It's tough managing a football team, and you're not up against a load of dummies in League One anymore. It's not like Alton times when you're playing, a lot of clubs that are really small budget and whatever. You're up against clubs like you, and it's going to be a tough ask season in, season out. But you will break through. You will go back up to the Championship, I'm sure. And that's when fun will start. I hope we go up with you.
Absolutely.
Then there's somebody up there we can beat.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Love that. Andy, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Guys, we're back on Saturday at 2:30 for the match day ticket. But Andy, thank you again. Rich, Matt, appreciate it.
I'll give a quick shout out, Martin, to Grant Cross. He's in hospital. He's got COVID, and just all the best.
Yeah, get well soon.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Andy, and thanks all to watching. Have a great night.